Center here at ASU. This specific video is going to cover how shifts in supply and demand can affect the market. So remember that notation can vary from professor to professor, so be sure to check with them before you utilize any exact methods we use here. But otherwise, here we go. All right, so for this question, we're focusing on the equilibrium price of supply and demand. So what we're going to do for this question is individually draw out each of the options. It'll be some good practice for the exam, but it'll be a little bit more rigorous than the other questions we've done. So starting from A, demand increases and supply decreases. All right, so the first thing we're going to draw is our current equilibrium. All right, so let's go ahead and show this first scenario where demand increases and supply decreases. We're going to consider two options. One, that demand increases by a large amount and supply decreases by a little. And two, that demand increases by a small amount and supply decreases by a lot. And we're going to find that in these two situations, it can change what the equilibrium price looks like. So, working on this first scenario, an increase in demand is associated with a rightward shift of demand. So, and we want a big increase in demand. So I'm moving this over to the right. And we want a small decrease in supply, or a small leftward shift in supply. So moving that over just a little. And what do we see here? Well, we have this new equilibrium price, right? We're going to call that P2, which is above P1. We know that in this scenario, price rises from P1 to P2. So because we already know here that price is rising, we don't actually have to go down here and show this different option, but for practice I'm going to go ahead and show how an increase in demand and a decrease in supply, depending on how much each of them shift, can have different price changes. So a small increase in demand or a small rightward shift, and a big decrease in supply or a great leftward shift. So this is supply, both of these are demand, and that brings us to a new equilibrium price of P2. So different things happen in this scenario. In both situations, the price did rise, but you'll notice, and this could be important in a question that was phrased differently, these two situations, one yielded an increase in quantity, and the other one yielded a decrease in quantity, because this one was to the left and this one was to the right. But regardless, we know that A is not correct because it showed that the equilibrium price was going to rise. Right, so in the second scenario, we have that demand and supply are both decreasing, but we're going to want to show what happens if these decrease by different amounts. All right, so let's show a large decrease in supply and a small decrease in demand in this first graph. A large decrease in supply would be a large leftward shift, and a small decrease in demand would be a small leftward shift in demand. So that actually brought us to a price up here of 2. And we'll notice that our equilibrium price before was lower than that. So in this scenario, we showed that price rose. So again, we can already eliminate answer choice B because we know that the equilibrium price might rise, but in this for this specific question, I'm going to go ahead and show the other option as well. So if demand decreases by a lot, or a large leftward shift of demand, and supply decreases by a little, a small leftward shift of supply, we get a price that would be below our original equilibrium. So in this scenario, we have that price falls. So even though in one of the situations in which demand and supply both decrease, we have falling price, we can't say that it must cause equilibrium price to fall because it may also rise. So B is also not correct. All right, we have a decrease in demand and an increase in supply. So showing both options once again, if demand decreases by a little and supply increases by a lot, or if demand decreases by a lot and supply increases by a little. So in this first scenario, when we have a small decrease in demand, we have a small leftward shift of demand. So showing that pretty close to the original one. And then we have a large increase in supply, or a large rightward increase in supply, or rightward shift. You can shift that one out a bit more. And you can see that this is our new equilibrium point. Bringing that over, P0 is below our P1. So we have shown that in this scenario, price will fall. But does it fall in this next scenario? Demand decreases by a lot and supply increases by a little. And if we can prove that in both this scenario and this scenario price falls, we will have proven that equilibrium price must fall. All right, so large decrease in demand would be a large leftward shift of demand. So showing that pretty far down. And a small increase in supply would be a little rightward shift of supply. So pretty close to that original supply curve. This is our new equilibrium, and this comes over here to P0. Notice again that P0 is below P1 in both of these scenarios. So we've proven that price will fall in both of our options, and therefore C, that demand decreases and supply increases, is the event that must cause equilibrium price to fall. However, I'm going to go ahead and draw these situations for option D just for some good review. So let's go ahead and analyze situation D, that demand and supply both increase. So if we show that there's a large increase in demand and a small increase in supply versus having a small increase in demand and a large increase in supply, how do these two situations change? So starting with the first one, a large increase in demand would be a large rightward shift in demand, and a small increase in supply would be a small rightward shift in supply. So putting a small one in there. This new equilibrium point is going to be above P1. So in this scenario, we have that price rises. But what happens here in this next scenario? If demand increases by a little bit, we have a small rightward shift in demand. And if supply increases by a lot, we have a large rightward increase in supply. And so what we've shown here with this new equilibrium point is that price would fall. So even though we already figured out that the answer was C, when we analyzed D, we were able to confirm that C was the correct answer, because when demand and supply both increase, the equilibrium price may rise or it may fall, depending on what happens. And so just to summarize, when we're analyzing a double shift, so when we have both demand and supply changing in the market, it's really important that we show many options, or in this case at least this two, where we have a big change and a small change and a small change and a big change. And that's important because, as you've seen here, sometimes even though one thing will show that price is rising or quantity is rising, another scenario with the same increase or decrease in shifts but different amounts could also show the exact opposite. So when you're taking this exam or when you're working on economics in the future, make sure that you're really careful about showing all the options and really understanding what has to change in a market and what may be indeterminate or something that you can't necessarily tell for sure. So in this scenario, price would be indeterminate because price may rise or it may fall. So I hope you found this helpful. Feel free to come visit us at the Tutoring Center.